I was reading this book called Mastery, and it said you need 10,000 hours at doing something, and that's like it's a pretty universally accepted number. So you need 10,000 man hours of doing something before you're considered like, I don't know if it's the master of it or the beginning of mastery.
Beginning, come in?
Yeah, like meaning that after you've been like after I've done construction for 10,000 hours, now I can now say that I'm not learning new stuff every day. I might be still learning little things, but I've become very proficient in my field. And to the point where now I can conquer it, right? So now I'm not only just learning it or just becoming like as good as others, but now I'm at the point where I can start to conquer this field and become the master of this field. And you need 10,000 hours, which is about 10 years. So, for example, when I've had people come to my company, I'm like, hey, this is going to be great. I'm going to teach you construction. And through construction, you can, one day you can go open up your own company. You can do this, you can do that. And I always tell them, I was like, so how old are you? Oh, you're 27? Okay, fine. The first 4 years, it's like you're getting your bachelor's degree, right? Like, just you're putting in the work. You don't know anything, right? It takes a couple of years just to know what you're doing. So, okay, so now the first 4 years of those 10 that I'm referring to are as if you're getting a bachelor's degree, sorry. The next, like 2-3 years, it's like you're getting your master's degree. Now you're going to be, whatever. And then the last couple years, you might not even be working for me anymore. You'll go off and start your own company. But guess what? There's a learning curve over there too. You don't just start your own company and you're instantly successful. So you're going to go, you were with me for 6-7 years. You've got your master's degree, with me. Great. Wonderful. Now go out and start your own company. But there's a learning curve out there. So that's going to take 2, 3, 4 years. So it will be 10 years by the time you say, you know what? I mastered it under someone else. Then I mastered it now on my own. Because when you go off on your own, there's new things to learn and new things to stumble into. And that's what happened to me. It took me 10 years to finally say that, wow, look at my hockey stick curve. Hockey stick curve means it's staying relatively flat for a long time. And then all of a sudden it takes off. So how do you, and all these kids who I would love to mentor and teach them this valuable skill, because it's not really taught in college, but yet it's very beneficial and it could be very lucrative even. So they have to do an apprenticeship. There's no college education for this.
I think
so.
They're
people
burned out by college. Like they paid their dues. They feel like I've done so much schooling. I can't do it all over again and as being an apprentice.
But what's going to happen is, I totally get it. But they only last a few months. So within a few months' time, most of them quit. Because people have short attention spans. They cannot fathom something taking years to accomplish, but yet all the most amazing things you could accomplish are things that take years to accomplish. And so what's going to happen is, you're saying they feel like they put in their dues, although college, it's questionable how much you learn in college. College, you go to college to have the ability to learn, right? You're going to college to learn how to learn.
Right.
You don't go to college. It's not like trade school where you go there and by the time you're done, you should theoretically know that trade.
More people need to go to trade school. I'm serious. Like nobody goes. Like why aren't people like, I want to be a plumber. Plumbers can make a lot of money. You can be really good at it.
Yeah.
Well, I want to be an electrician. These are, go to trade school for a couple of years. But
you would be surprised how much these guys make.
I know, because
it would actually,
you're a contractor, so you hired these guys.
And sometimes I can't afford a lot of them. They are making.
They have a lot of bids.
Money.
They're too busy sometimes.
Yeah. One time, a young person came to me and asked me, "Hey, I went to junior college. I finished that, but I'm not really interested in going to get a 4-year degree. And I like working with my hands." I was like, oh, I have a great solution for you. You like working with your hands, you're relatively smart. I mean, you went to junior college. Right. And who knows, maybe they're very smart. And that's the misconception that we have, that if you're really smart, you have to be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer.
Right.
And those are great things, but you can be very smart and choose now these other things. And I'll tell you why, because it's not about being an electrician or being a plumber or being a HVAC guy like that. It's about learning some kind of craft that can give you the ability to own your own business. And that's the real key.
Yeah.
Owning your own business.
It's a whole separate skill.
It's a whole separate skill, and you have to have lots of skills.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to be a good business owner,
right.
Not just fly by night, but to be a good business owner, you'd be surprised. You have to be like amazing communicator, amazing with management skills, managerial skills, amazing accountant. You have to be amazing at your, of course, the trade that you're talking about. And you have to be good at so many things that it actually, and it's very stressful too. And remember we were talking earlier about people who desire responsibility. It takes somebody who desires responsibility and does not shy away from responsibility. Mm-hmm. But to those who do it, there's a world of difference. So I was telling this young gentleman, I was saying, look, this is what I would do if I were you. If I was in your exact position right now. It's like, how old are you? And then he was like, in his mid to late 20s. He was like, after junior college, he was just fumbling around doing odd things, like jobs, but nothing meaningful. So then I was like, okay, look, use your parents as much as you can use your parents. Because this is what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you, go to I just give this one example. There's many examples of how to get there, but this one example was go to the a union that teaches like electrician school, right? You like working with your hands, so let's go to them. When you go to them, they'll say, okay, we can teach you, but you're going to be a apprentice. An apprentice level means that you're going to make like minimum wage or something, like you make $15 an hour, $17 an hour. Take it. That's great because they're paying you to teach you, right? So
it's better than taking that alone.
Yeah, it's the opposite. They're paying you while they're teaching you. So let's say it takes a couple years to get to journeyman, and journeyman's a good level. And let's say you can or cannot stay after that if you want. Let's say you stay another couple years, so you've been there for 4 or 5 years, and now you're like a master technician, like a master electrician. Yeah. Okay, so now you've gotten this free education. You're the master of this thing now, right? Mm-hmm. Or technically, you should be the master of this thing. But now they're going to really try to keep you there and say, oh, we'll pay you $40, $50, $60 an hour. That sounds really tempting, and give you benefits and give you all this stuff. And then say, thank you, but no thank you. Mm. And he's like, oh, and then what? I was like, and then go buy yourself a little rinky-dink truck and some tools and offer your services. Yeah. And you could work for cheap if you want. Like, doesn't matter because you're just trying to get your name out there. And you go installing, ceiling fixtures and fans and whatever. Then you have like a group of homeowners that know you. Then you might get hooked up with someone like me, a general contractor that'll start giving you jobs to do. Right. And then if we see that you're really good, we might give you whole homes or whole businesses to do. Mm-hmm. And then, first year you might be by yourself. Second year you might have one guy working for you. Yeah. Third year, you might buy a whole other truck and have 2 guys on that truck and you and another guy, another truck. And every year you're going to add another truck with another pair of guys. Yeah. And within like 10 years, you're going to have like 6, 7 trucks taking on huge jobs because now you've got like 14 guys underneath you. Mm-hmm. And you're charging for each of them $50 an hour, roughly. Right. And because they're not licensed, right? They're not master technicians. They're maybe journeyman level. So maybe you pay them $25 an hour because they know, but they're not masters of their craft. And you're charging $50. Right. So you're making $25 an hour times 14 guys. So you're making, I don't know, what is that, like $500 an hour? Or you're making some huge amount per hour. And sometimes not hourly, it's by the job. But the idea is within 10 years, you will be making $500,000 a year. if you are overall good at all these things,
yeah.
meaning being a business owner and being an electrician and being a customer person and being a, a managerial person, but if you've got all these qualities,
yeah,
it just takes any skill set. You can replace the name electrician with anything, and you'd be a business owner. And then being business owner is where there's the big key to getting out of almost like the rat race. Like any amount of money that you make, you're still just barely making ends meet, right? And so one thing that can help you get out of that little rat race is being a business owner. And hopefully if you're smart,
good one.
You're a good business owner, and you can even have just like somebody with 14 employees. You don't consider them like, they're not like Elon Musk.
Yeah.
But this guy with 14 employees, I know a lot of these guys.
That's easy.
Who have who are making like $500,000 a year.
Yeah.
Easily. And they're not brilliant, but they're not dumb either. They're pretty sharp. And that's what the problem is in our cultures. We don't give these people enough credit. That somebody like that is actually very sharp.
Yeah. I have a friend who's a lawyer. He's a really successful lawyer. So he lives in a nice area, and his neighbor just owns a bakery. And his neighbor has a nicer house, a bigger pool, and nicer cars than him. And so it's like it really doesn't.
Well, I guess it's not. Yeah, I mean, I bet you that baker is not working. For somebody.
He owns his own bakery.
But then that's not. But that's the problem is that we like.
But that's how he started.
Yes,
it's the process. It's the journey, and that.
Well, he's just using that trade as the.
But I don't think you get a successful. You got to have some passion. I feel like about maybe not. You're not passionate about electricity, or be an electrician,
or
but you got to love the craft and you got to want the journey.
That just makes the journey bearable. The journey's still difficult.
Yeah,
the journey's still very difficult. There were a lot of times when I questioned why I was in this field, and it wasn't easy. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
So enjoying it makes it bearable. You don't have to enjoy it.
Yeah.
But if you want to be the master of it, you want to be the best person who's ever picked up, a hammer or whatever. You gotta love what you do. But you can still do something you don't necessarily love. But the idea behind it is just that we've been telling our kids, and by that meaning our parents have told us, that being a doctor is the most important, and to be a lawyer or an engineer or this stuff is like the next and whatever and this and that. It's like, okay, but in today's society, I don't think it matters as much as the difference between employee and employer.
Yeah.
And so I think if you talk to two business owners who one could own a bakery and one could own an electrical company where they're doing electrician stuff, and one who's doing construction, and another who's building cars. All these different types of business owners have way more in common than like a surgeon has with an internal medicine doctor. Right? Like, because why? Because business owners, other than, because I don't go around building people's houses anymore, right? As the owner, I'm not the one building, right? But what am I doing? I'm dealing with customer service,
contracts, hiring.
I'm dealing with contracts, hiring, dealing with problems,
marketing.
And guess what? If I worked at Ford, that would have they would need the same things as if I worked at Coke, as if I worked at, and that's why you see a lot of CEOs can work from one company to another company, and the two companies have nothing to do with each other, because it's his general skill set of being a good.
It's not the specialized knowledge in that specific thing. Yeah.
And then that's why I think people are misunderstanding. They're like, oh my God, you're a baker, and he's like, he's not a baker. he's a businessman.
Right.
And so that's like really sad that we need to boil people down to their degree or or what they do, because when people are like, oh, you're a contractor, I'm like, you can call me that, but I've never built anything in my life. Right? I manage a company. Yeah. Right? And so maybe that's not what they don't understand.
Yeah, that's why when people kind of in the whole dating process and they're like, what do they do? What does she do? What does he do? Mm-hmm. I'm like, where did they graduate from? What level of education? I'm like, man, those things are so silly. It's because it's like, what skills do they have? Do they have those habits that make people successful? Things like that. Mm-hmm. There's this book I was reading. It's called by a guy named Mark Manson. I forget what the title of it is. It's like something like How to Not Give an F or whatever, something really out there. Yeah. And the first chapter drops the F bomb like 100 times, but he makes this interesting point about like, George, I ask you, what do you want? What's going to make you happy? And I ask Joe Schmo the same question. We're all going to say the same things, right? Yeah, I want to work like 2 hours a day. I want to like have a nice house. I want to have a nice car. I want to go on vacations. Yada. We all know like what the good life is. Mm-hmm. And so his question he likes to ask is like, how much pain are you willing to go through to get there? And that's what's going to determine how far you go. Like, how badly do you want to be happy? How badly do you want this house? How badly do you want to fall in love? Do you want a relationship? Are you willing to go through the heartbreaks? Are you willing to go through?
So is he a proponent of?
He's a proponent of,
of hard work?
Yeah, he's a proponent of hard work.
Not giving an F, so I didn't know.
No, his not giving an F is more about like how to not give an F about basically how to kind of the premise of the book is like take action, don't just sit there. It's like you can't care about everything and like just sit there in your wallows. So
I can get behind that because I think having purpose in your life and having something that drives you and working hard, hopefully you're working hard towards something you love or something you like, is what gives you happiness. Going on vacations doesn't give you happiness. Right. I know my father-in-law is a retired man. He goes on many vacations, but he goes on so many vacations they lose their flavor. Yeah. Right? Like he's like, yeah, I'm going to Cancun. I'm like, oh, you're not happy about it? He's like, no, I was just there like 2 months ago. I'm like, oh wow, like and it's funny because when I talk to him, I tell him, oh yeah, I'm stressed out. And he's the one who taught me construction, by the way, my father-in-law. He's a brilliant guy. So when I tell him about all the stress that I'm having, whether it's in my company or now I'm investing in homes and I'm like becoming doing this stuff, and that's stressful too. So the company's stressful, investing in homes are stressful. So when I tell him about all this stress, he's like, good old days. Like, what? What? I'm like, this is so stressful. Like, I'm telling you about how
men are meant to problem solve. I feel like
yes,
we love problem solving,
and high level men love solving high level problems and difficult problems. Yeah. My brain is always doing that. I'm always like like a Rubik's cube. I'm always trying to figure out like the solution to problems.
And that's what gives happiness, is solving a problem. Mm-hmm. Provides like so much joy.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine working in a field where let's say tomorrow burger flippers make $1 million a year because they can't get burger flippers anymore. And so as long as you're willing to just sit in front of a grill and like flip burgers, you'll make $1 million, mm-hmm. Right? I don't know if I could take the job because I would lose my mind. That I can't just be doing something so mindless, no matter the money. So I really find enjoyment in finding solutions to problems, mm-hmm. in coming up with creative solutions. And the problem doesn't have to be like a financial problem or whatever. For example, my problem is, I'm designing this house and how do I fit all these different things that I want and do it within this amount of space. Mm-hmm. And I just have to work it over and over again, to get it to work. And when I finally find the solution, I feel so great because I came up with a design that looks good, but feels good, but uses the amount of space that we have and didn't go over and this and that. Like, to me, that feels great. Or setting a goal for myself and hitting it, like, oh, I want to be financially free. Oh, I don't know how do I get there? I don't know. And so, like, trying to figure out that question. And when I finally find a solution and I'm working towards a solution, and the solution could be a multi-year solution. It's very complicated, but you feel very rewarded when you work towards it. So now when I tell my father-in-law, yeah, I'm like stressed out, he was almost drooling, like saying like, oh, I miss those days. And I'm like, why? Why would you say that? And he's like, do you think I like just sitting around watching CNN and like being retired sucks? Is basically what he's telling me. Like, I don't want to sit around watching CNN and going on vacation once a month or once every other month, and I just feel like I have no purpose. Mm-hmm. And he was the kind of person that he was on fire. Like, he was busy from 5 a.m. to like 7 p.m. every day, 6 days a week, and he was always solving huge issues and doing huge projects. He's somebody I look up to very much. And so for him to say, trust me, retirement's not what it's cracked up to be, I believe him, because I have that personality too. I like to feel like I'm always conquering the next mountain and doing something big. So I can't imagine accepting life where I'm just doing nothing. So I think we have to change our mindset that happiness is the struggle.
Right.
Happiness is not the fruit of the struggle, right? Like, it's good because when you work hard and you get some fruit, there's meaning behind that fruit. Mm-hmm. But if you're just eating fruit every day or all day, or you're just eating ice cream, like instead of as a treat, but you're eating it all the time, it's no longer fun.
Yeah.
And so people who want to work 2 hours a day and drive sports cars and do whatever, but if there's no purpose to your life, no meaning, I would beg to differ. I was listening to Jordan Peterson, and he said a cool thing where he said, if you take a guy who starts his life off as a waiter, and then he works his butt off, and he becomes like head waiter, then he works his butt off, and then becomes the shift manager or something. Then he works his butt off, then he becomes like the assistant manager to the restaurant. Then he works his butt off, then he becomes the general manager of the whole restaurant. He feels like $1 million.
Yeah.
This guy might not even be making 6 figures, but he damn it, he feels amazing. And he should.
Yeah.
He should, because it doesn't matter about the dollar amount. It matters about the trajectory.
Right.
Especially for men. Men are very subject to feeling good or bad based on their trajectory.
Yeah.
So he said, the opposite would be, imagine take like a trust fund baby. He's got 10 million sitting in the bank, but he got it last year, or he got it a few years ago. And guess what? Every year, another million gets ticked off of the 10 million. And let's say it's year 5. So he's got 5 million left. He doesn't know how to make money. He only knows how to spend it.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh no, I've only got, if I keep living like this, 5 years left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? How does he feel about himself? First of all, he feels like a failure because his dad or his family left him this $10 million, and he doesn't know how to manage it. He doesn't know how to grow it. All he knows how to spend it, right?
Yeah.
And so his trajectory is like, it's plummeting, right? So, for example, we were talking earlier about women wanting men who are financially stable. So this guy's financially stable. He has $5 million in the bank. But guess what? In 5 years, he's going to have nothing. Mm-hmm. Versus the other guy, his trajectory is actually amazing. I mean, to go from a waiter to a manager, the general manager, is a big deal. And to do that, let's say he did that in 5 years. So while the other guy was burning $1 million a year, this guy went from waiter to manager, which is a very sharp incline. I would
one day opening his own restaurant.
I would beg to differ that guy in another 5 years is going to be something really special, because he's got drive and he's got ambition and he's got work ethic, right? Yeah. He's not going to be just the general manager of whatever restaurant, right? He's going to be something else. So again, like, because I'm not a woman myself, but I'll say the example of my daughter. If my daughter said to me, hey, there's man A or B. Which one should I choose from? Let's say those are the only two choices she had, right? And let's assume they both love Jesus, right?
Throw that in there, yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise I will for sure choose the other. If you tell me one hates Jesus, but the idea is, if she came to me and said, "Hey, there's this guy. He started off as a waiter, and 5 years later he's the general manager of the restaurant, and when I meet him, I could tell he's full of drive and passion and has aspirations to be something better." Versus I meet the other guy, and let's say I know this about him, that he had 10, now it's 5, and this and that. I'd be like, oh man, there's a bigger chance that my daughter's gonna be out in the street with actually the millionaire.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
Mm-hmm.
But people need to take that into consideration. It's trajectory.
Yeah.
That's way more important. And sometimes it takes time to see trajectory come to fruition. So
yeah,
even though your trajectory might be great, but you might be at the bottom. So it might take, like we said, 10 years to see some real mastery over that. But I've had friends and family where one of my family members, I really admire him a lot. He's one of my cousins. He went to high school, barely graduated high school, tried out junior college for a semester, didn't like it, like just got out of junior college, and then bounced around from job to job. And then eventually went to work at a car dealership in the service department. Service department just means that you receive cars. You ask the people like, oh, would you like an oil change? Would you like whatever? And then you try to sell them on doing a few more things.
Yeah.
And so I guess they give those guys, like, if you can sell people on more things, once you get to these markers, you get bonuses. So my cousin is really good with people and really good with sales, and he's really sharp. Again, people put too much credit on like education and college, and not, you could be smart and not have a college education. And I am sure that he is off the charts, like in his IQ score. I think he just didn't like schooling.
Yeah. It's not for everyone.
Yeah, so he is sharp and he is very smart. So he blew past all the little markers and got like a super bonus.
Yeah.
And they're like, whoa. And they actually had to keep changing the markers of where you get your bonuses, because he kept blowing through them. And then they kept making it harder and harder to get bonuses. Yeah. And he kept, no matter what the number was, he got to it and got to this super bonus every month or every whatever amount of time. Then they were like, okay, and he's just a kid. Like, maybe we should give the kid a little team to work with. Maybe he can encourage the whole team. He got his whole team to hit their mark. Well, this kid knows how to get his whole team to hit their mark. Let's give him like the whole department. The whole department did well. And they're like, well, I guess, and he's like in his 20s, like, oh, well, let's just make him the general manager of the service department. He's probably not even 30 yet.
Yeah.
And he's making hundreds of thousands.
Wow.
Because he's making them millions and millions more than they usually make. Yeah. So he's getting bonuses from everybody's markers that they're hitting.
Yeah.
Then they're like, oh, he's doing so well. And no matter what department we put him in, or no matter what burdens we put on him, he always seems to know what to do, and he always seems to pull through, and he always seems to do wonderfully. Why don't we make him the general manager of the whole dealership? And there's like 500 employees, and he's in charge of like multi-million-dollar business, or maybe even like much more than multi-million. I'm sure it's like $100 million business or $200 million business. It's a lot. It's like one of the biggest
30s.
Dealerships, huh?
And he was in his early 30s.
And now he's in his early 30s, and now I think he's like mid 30s, and he's, as a general manager of a dealership, I think he's doing better than, because it's like a billionaire who owns many dealerships, and he's like, who is this like kid who's outperforming all the other dealerships? His trajectory of his dealership is like flying through the roof, and I'm very proud of him. So proud of him. Yeah. But it shows that it's your grit, your toughness, your ability to, like, he took him 10 years to get out of being just in the service department to being this hot shot. and it's not the typical storyline that our parents want us to follow.
Yeah.
But he's doing much better than most people I know, and I'm proud of him. I'm so proud of what he's done. But I'm not saying I'm anti-education. I'm just saying that there's more than one road that could lead you to where you want to go.
Yeah, and I think having good mentors to show you those, because as a young man, you don't really know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't even know what the possibilities are. But if you're steady working, I think you kind of said this earlier, that good things follow. When you just put in the work day in, day out, you don't know where it's going to go, really. You can't have it. Because it's easy when I'm going to be a neurosurgeon. You kind of know, what it's going to look like. I think that there's a little comfort in that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know if I do this, and that every day and take these classes and go to this school, this is my life. But it's a lot riskier. And this is back to, like, some of the masculine traits, and to go on a journey, you don't know where it's going to end up, but you just believe in yourself and work hard every day, and it usually works out. Like,
I mean, you have to have some understanding of what you're trying to do.
Right.
You don't have to have it all figured out, but you can't just say, "Oh, I'm gonna flip burgers, and one day I'm gonna be a millionaire." It might not. The two might not be connected, right? But you'd be surprised how many things can lead to success, not just the traditional, like, 5 things that our parents used to tell us, like, you have to be. Right? There's many more than that. I'm not against education. If I think everyone should be educated.
Yeah.
And if
you're just talking about formal education.
No, and formal education is good, and I'm a proponent of formal education as well.
Yeah.
But is that the end of it? I think that's the problem, is that people think, like, I'm done with college. Where's my 6-figure or 7-figure, I don't know, like job? But I'm sorry, but college was just like a standard. It didn't even, you're 22, you're not going to be a millionaire tomorrow, son. Like, so I think people need to accept, like, to go to get their bachelor's, at least, it doesn't have to be at a fancy college.
Yeah.
It could be at any state school, like, that's fine. I love those, right? But after that, you should also accept that you need to find a mentor and do, like, an apprenticeship if you're done with at the bachelor's level, meaning, like, if you're not going to go on to be a surgeon, right? Like, and even surgeons have their apprenticeships, they call residencies and fellowships, right? But we don't have that in any other field, which leads me to believe that maybe we should bring it back. There used to be apprenticeships for everything.
Yeah.
So there's a word called, like, or saying called, get rich in a niche. And so
in a niche.
In a niche.
Okay.
Yeah, like, everybody who you know that's, like, wealthy isn't doing, like, a regular 9-to-5 job. They're doing something that's a niche job, like, that not too many people do, maybe. Or a company that maybe this person owns this company that not a lot of people know much about it. So
manufacturing light switches or something.
Yeah, and you'd be surprised. Some of those people are multimillionaires, and they're making light switches. But the problem is they don't teach it anywhere.
Yeah.
So what you do is you approach this person and say, maybe they're a family friend, or maybe there's someone that's that through someone, and say, look, I'm really interested in learning what you do. I would be willing to work for you, even for free. I don't mind if I can as long as I can shadow you. I'll get your coffee, I'll do whatever, but just please let me shadow you and let me stick around. Like, you're not shadowing them for a week. Hopefully, if you do it for a couple of weeks or a couple of months and you think that it looks interesting, it's going to turn into shadowing them for years. But that's what an apprenticeship is called.
Yeah.
And trust me, this person has trade secrets. He has good knowledge of things. He has connections and he has networking. I mean, the reason why he's a multimillionaire doing this business is because he's doing something right.
Right.
So you'd go there to learn everything that he'd be willing to teach you. And usually if you offer a businessman sincerely, like, I want to learn and I'm willing to do anything and I'm even willing to work for free, trust me, most of them don't mind taking on people to teach them. They actually think that that's interesting because there's like a shortage of young entrepreneurs. There's a shortage of young people who want to learn.
Yeah.
So they're going to look at you and say, wow, kid, yeah, you know what? That's respectable. I'll teach you. And you do this for a while. Then one day you open your own light switch shop and you make millions of dollars, right?
Yeah.
But if you just go to school to be an accountant, well, I mean, unless you're going to go do something special with that.
Yeah.
If you're just going to go work for someone, then you're just going to make a salary, even if it's a decent salary. And that's it. Like, that's the end of that.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that works for a lot of people.
Nothing wrong with that. But if you want a fresh take on it, I would say look into alternative things. And alternative things might be you still go to college, but after college, you might want to shadow somebody and apprentice under someone.
Yeah.
And that's where you'd kind of hone in.
Yeah.
And so you might spend all your 20s, like between college and apprenticing under someone before you start your own company. But that's not bad. Opening up your own company at around 30 years old, give or take, a little sooner, a little later. And then by 40, you're a millionaire.
Sounds pretty good.
It sounds pretty good, but also like
it's doable.
Yeah, no, but we're talking about it like it's so easy.
Yeah.
But that's like almost 20 years of struggle.
Right.
You know, from 22 getting out of college to 40. You know, and but the road is really worth it because once you get to that point, once you learn how to make money, money's not that hard to make. And once you learn how to do things, you can replicate it. You can do whatever. So it's like that hockey stick thing where it's like your trajectory. You know, first it's like kind of flat, you know, because you're just learning, and then it's getting a little bit better, and then all of a sudden you start your own business, and then it takes some time to get a grip, and then all of a sudden, like, you know, every year you're doubling your income.
Right.
But that's not a very easy thing to do. So it takes time. But once that tree grows and it has really deep roots, it can become a very massive tree, right?